Here's the less sassy definition of operant conditioning. Any procedure in which a behavior is made stronger or weaker by its consequences. If you came to one of my talks at Clicker Expo or to my seminars on clicker training, we would spend the entire morning talking about consequences. We would spend great time and detail making sure you understood what that word meant, all the different kind of consequences there are, and I really want you to be skilled at the use of them. But not this weekend, because Pavlovian conditioning is not about consequences. And for people that I'm working with who've done a lot of training, especially clicker trainers, this is a very hard leap to make. We are not talking about consequences when you're talking Pavlovian conditioning. It's really hard to suspend that part of your brain, at least it is for me. Timing matters in classical conditioning. Timing matters in clicker training. You want to time your click precisely. It's very essential that you have good timing with your click. No clicker here. Not using a clicker in this process. So how does timing matter in classical conditioning? Let me show you the ways you can pair the two A's. So remember, I've just been saying you pair the bell and the food, and I've been very vague about it. I can't use the bell here. I'll use whistle. I'm going to also use Louise because the poor soul's sitting near me. So I'm just going to pretend that I'm classically conditioning you. Trace conditioning would be the conditional stimulus begins and ends before the US is presented, food. So let me do it again. Trace conditioning is the CS begins and ends before the US is presented. Actually, I'd have this unwrapped and I'd put it in your mouth. Look at Louise is looking at me. I wish you could see her face like, what is she doing? I'm never sitting in the seat again. Louise will be sitting back there after lunch. Do you get that? Trace is this. Food to my subject. All right. Oh, some nodding heads. Like nodding heads. All right.
But there's a delay there. There's a delay there, and the dog may pick up on something.
Hang on with me. You're a step ahead. Oh, I love that your tags say bonjour. Oh, bonjour. All right. Delayed. The CS and the US overlap. The bell and the food overlap in time. So first off would be all dogs can bite. And here just is the basic example of a hypothetical bite threshold diagram for Dusty. So let's understand what these two axes are. Let's do this one first. These are going to be behaviors in the order of escalation of aggression. And what's important is that you know that this freeze, this line that says freeze, that word freeze is one example of many, many observable physical changes in the dog that are precursors to the things we probably would call aggression. So we probably all in this room would call a growl or a snap or a bite, and many levels of bites from fully inhibited to fully damaging. So we can make much more fine distinctions between these, but let's just use these as a fairly obvious one. Freezing, most people would not call aggression. I wouldn't either, but it is a warning sign. It's a precursor, and it's more subtle. So let's go through. You got the idea, you got the basics, you're ready to go out and do some counter conditioning with your dog. What are some things that are going to be obstacles for you? So we talked about one yesterday, which is your dog attaches the emotion of your unconditioned stimulus, food, toy, maybe body work, usually some kind of food or a very coveted toy. Attaches that to some other stimulus in the environment. Because the stimulus you'd like the dog to attach it to, your conditioned stimulus, the trigger, is only one of many stimuli, right? So your job is to make sure the trigger is the most salient, the most obvious stimulus, so that you're not going to all this trouble and having the dog form a positively emotional association to something else. It's just a waste of time. So let's go ahead and just have you come up and hit your mark, and let's do that. And look at Carrie Ann's being great and relaxed. And let's just see what happens. Okay, we'll have Eddie back away. Let's make one thing harder. Are you okay making something harder? And you're being perfect, because I wouldn't have fed there, because why waste the chicken, right? But give me 3 different ways to make this harder, one at a time. What's one way to make it harder?
Speed.
Speed. So come to the same mark faster. Don't change where she's going, just come faster. That'd be one. Give me another one. Noisy. Can you make some noise? Especially if the dog can make noise. Now, also if the dog can't, if you can't cue her to speak, you could be making noise intentionally. You're talking or you're blustering, you're being a good trainer. But we want to draw Yuki's attention. Give me another way to make it harder. Closer. It absolutely could be closer. So I don't want to do both. I don't want to go run up here coughing and we're going to move the line here. Do you understand what I'm saying? So what I'd like to be able to do is have you come faster. Let's just try that one. So I'm going to have you, are you okay with that, Carrie? We'll do a trial. Let's make it a little bit harder, but come on in a more speedy way. Let's just come on in boldly up there. Feed. And let's walk away with Eddie. And let's stop feeding Yuki, and then you'd go back to faking whatever activity you've brought with you, your iPhone or your magazine, and you're back to boring life with Yuki. Part of what the problem is right here is she's not relaxing between trials because she knows you're training. It would be lovely if she could just sort of hang out. So what's happening right now is she's not in obedience mode. I want to surprise her with another trial. Let's do the exact same thing again if Carrie Ann's okay with that. Same exact trial again. So blast right on in there. Like that speed? Excellent. Perfect, Carrie Ann. Let's go back with Eddie. Perfect. Her timing, her demeanor, Carrie Ann's doing a great job. What's your sense, just in watching, where the porridge is? Are we too hot, too cold, just right?